And now for this week's State of Trade in Star Citizen. The Carrack continues to flood trade routes as many players take advantage of the subscribership of the month. With its 456 SCU, many haulers have decided that the subscription fee is worth it to gain access to the ship for the rest of June. However, a spike in new Carrack pilots also means a rise in piracy, as both solo operations and groups attempt to take advantage of those unfamiliar with the Carrack. Between use of quantum dampeners and EMP-capable ships, pirates have put many tools to use in holding freighters hostage for UEC. We even have confirmed reports of pirates blowing hangar doors open on the Carrack, using this vulnerability to board the ship and negotiate for payment. Concerning payment, a previous episode of Inside Star Citizen gave players a look at an incoming trading app. This new addition to Mobiglass will allow players to transfer money directly to another player. With the convoluted beacon system no longer the only method to send and receive money, collaborative trade operations and discrete negotiations are sure to increase when this feature goes live. While subject to change, the initial version is currently slated for 3.10. And now, on to market data. In the metals market, Agricium fell slightly to 24.69 on Daymar, down from last week's 24.79. Deposits on Lyria reached 23.85, with both moons experiencing minimal availability. Agricium has a rarely seen base price of 22.5. With such high pricing, Agricium only yields a profit margin of about 10%. Titanium continues to be heavily trafficked. Deposits at Tram and Myers held to a predictable 7.95 with minimal supply, down from last week's 8 UEC. Prices on Ariel remain unchanged from last week, hovering at 7.76. However, titanium around ArcCorp sees a surge in movement. Deposits on Lyria reach 7.95 as well, with both Humboldt Mines and Shuban SAL2 frequently depleting their stock, with no outpost seeing a base price of 7.10. The increase in popularity of the Lyria to Area 18 titanium run can be attributed to a thinner atmosphere on Lyria and less frequent run-ins with pirates, who historically have made Ariel their hunting grounds for titanium traders. Those hauling titanium from Humboldt Mines are urged to use caution, as the outpost does not have an armistice zone. The movement of gold has decreased considerably from last week. Daymar deposits still hold at 5.87, down slightly from last week's 5.89, with similar shortages. However, deposits on Aberdeen and Lyria fell back to a base of 5.41, indicating that traders in those areas have ditched the commodity for the time being. While not as profitable as titanium, traders may find moving gold from Aberdeen or Lyria to be a quieter route with near guaranteed availability. Tungsten continues to enjoy an increase in movement. Prices across Daymar continue to hold at 380, mirroring last week's trend of the same price. Availability is also at an all-time low. Deposits outside Crusader saw much less traffic, as ArcCorp 045 sees a high of 3.58 on Walla. Deposits on Ariel remain at a base price of 355 and see no supply issues. Aluminum fell back to a base price across the board, falling to 1.11 UEC. This is down from last week's 1.15, briefly seen at Tram and Myers. Legal Vice sees a small slump in movement. Distilled spirits fell to 4.58 on Daymar, with Cellen seeing a low of 4.52, down from last week's 4.72. However, availability continues to be an issue at all locations, and the commodity holds well above its base pricing of 420. Stims dropped considerably as well, with supplies on Clio actually returning to a base price of 280. Supplies on Yela remained at 3 UEC, down from last week's 323. The drop in movement may be attributed to new traders learning about the heavy restrictions on the demand of stims. Illegal goods continue to face overwhelming surplus and little demand, with little change from usual trends. Gases see a minor decrease except for astatine and fluorine. Astatine continued last week's price of 7.94 on Yela with little availability. Prices on ETA fell to 7.79, down from last week's 7.94. Deposits around ArcCorp fell as low as 7.47 on Walla, with Lyria seeing a high of 7.62. Availability has been scarce at all locations, keeping prices well above astatene's base of 7 UEC. Chlorine saw a massive decrease in movement this week. The commodity reached a high of 1.41 on Yela, down from last week's 1.48. Deposits at all other locations returned to a base price of 1.3, with occasional minor increases during peak trading hours. Fluorine continues to see heavy activity this week. All locations held at a base price of 2.35, with Pearlman on Magda being the exception at 2.31. However, the sell price tumbled dramatically at Deacon's Research, falling as far as 2.70, well below a base sell price of 2.95, and similar to last week's trends. Hydrogen sees an increase in price up to 0.99 at ArcCorp 157 on Yela, slightly above last week's price of 0.97. Prices at all other locations held firm to a base of 0.90, with minor increases on Lyria during peak trading. Iodine's movement slowed again this week, as many traders quickly outgrew its limited earning potential. It returned to a base pricing of 0.35 at all locations in the system. In the mineral market, laranite rose to 27.79 at all locations except Walla, with ArcCorp Mining 045 holding the low price of 27.47. Laranite experienced extreme scarcity at all locations this week, continuing last week's trend. With shortages across the board and some players ramming ships waiting to fill up at laranite supplying outposts, it might be best to avoid this commodity for the time being. Diamond continues to be a flagship commodity. With outposts on Hurston currently not available for trading, the price of diamonds on Magda has soared to 6.44, with outposts frequently running out of stock. Diamond prices rose to 6.38 on Walla and Lyria, with stock depleting during peak hours. Deposits at Tram and Myers held to a base price of 5.85, with occasional spikes throughout the week as traders swarmed the Sellen to Lorville diamond run. Despite its low profit margin, traders are continuing to move Beryl around Crusader. While it dropped in price to 4.14, down from last week's 4.18, deposits on Daymar are still above its base pricing of 4.06. Deposits around Hurston and ArcCorp remain at base pricing. Once again, we would like to remind traders that Beryl has the lowest profit margin of all commodities. Corundum sees increased movement from Tram and Myers. The commodity rose to 2.40 this week, up from a previous 2.31. All other locations continue to hold at a base price of 2.30. Movement of quartz has faltered once again. The commodity dropped to its base price of 1.25. Some locations in Crusader saw minor price increases during peak trade. Scrap was overwhelmed this week as more traders competed for supplies close to Port Olisar. Grim Hex and Crew L1 were frequently depleted, and Port Olisar actually met its demand for scrap multiple times. Prices held close to 1.54, similar to last week's 1.55. Prices near Delamar have also seen a minor increase, as some traders have taken to freighting scrap to Levski as an alternative. Scrap has a base price of 1.35, which can be found at less trafficked R&Rs. Medical supplies see an increase in traffic around Microtech, reaching 17.20 on Calliope. Up from last week's high 16 range, medical supplies are still some of the only commodities in Microtech's local economy. Prices on Yela fell to 17.14. While down from last week's 17.33, this is still well above a base price of 15.75. The surge in pricing can be attributed to Hicks' research on Sellen, which is not accepting trade at this time, making Yela the only provider of medical supplies in Crusader. While not seeing a price increase, agricultural supplies see more movement from subscriber Carracks. State of Trade can confirm that a few ill-informed pirates attempted to hold a Carrack hostage over its cargo of agricultural supplies. The pirates were not successful, and the Carrack was able to escape relatively unscathed. Prices hold firm at 1 UEC. Processed food sees little movement and holds at a base price of 1.21. And now for next week's forecast. Prices should see a repeat of last week, with more stress on higher-end commodities as Carrack pilots reach their financial stride. Expect astatine and titanium to have higher than average pricing. With Hicks on sell and still offline, fluorine will see an all-time low pricing when trading to deacons. Consider taking fluorine to Grim Hex as an alternative. Gold may see an increase in movement as traders look for an alternative cargo. Diamond will continue to see a majority focus from Tram and Myers, bringing pirate activity along with it. Expect alternative sources on Magda to see higher prices and limited availability. And now for this week's trading tip. Are you staying hydrated? Important for both you and your character. Make sure you take time to see to your hunger and thirst. All too easy to ignore, the risk of dehydration and starvation can jeopardize your cargo while trading. Keep tabs on your hunger and thirst levels, and be sure to carry an extra bottle of water and snack so you can stay out and about on those long distance routes. That's it for this week's State of Trade. Until next time, keep on truckin'.